peaceful from a distance. Fresh snow covered the neighborhood, the streets were quiet, and most people were still inside enjoying their coffee. I looked out my front window expecting to see the same clean driveway I had shoveled the night before, but instead I saw a massive wall of ice and packed snow piled directly across the front of my property. At first, I thought it must have been the city snowplow, but something didn't seem right. The pile wasn't spread evenly. It looked like someone had deliberately moved it there. Confused, I threw on my coat and stepped outside to investigate. That's when I noticed my neighbor, the self-appointed ruler of the homeowners association, standing proudly at the end of her driveway with a snow shovel in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. HOA Karen had spent the entire morning cleaning her driveway, but instead of properly disposing of the snow and ice, she had pushed every bit of it directly in front of my house. The pile stretched from one side of my property to the other, blocking access to my mailbox and making it nearly impossible to get my car out. When I walked over and asked what happened, she immediately acted offended. She pointed at the giant mountain of ice and said it wasn't her problem anymore because it wasn't on her property. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had literally moved the problem from her driveway to mine and somehow convinced herself that made it acceptable. I calmly explained that snow removal doesn't work like that and that she couldn't just dump everything onto someone else's property. Instead of apologizing, she crossed her arms and launched into a lecture about neighborhood appearance. According to her, her driveway had to remain perfectly clean because HOA standards required it, and she claimed my property was the most convenient place to move the snow. The logic was unbelievable. Apparently, keeping her driveway spotless was more important than blocking mine entirely. I tried reasoning with her, but every sentence only made things worse. She insisted that the snow naturally ended up there. The problem was that several neighbors had security cameras, and one of them had already sent me footage showing Karen spending over 2 hours pushing wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow of ice directly in front of my home. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate operation. When I mentioned the camera footage, her confidence immediately disappeared for a second before she recovered and started accusing me of spying on the neighborhood. Somehow, she turned herself into the victim. Meanwhile, I was the one staring at a frozen wall blocking my driveway. As the morning continued, temperatures dropped and the pile began freezing solid. What had started as snow was now becoming a dangerous sheet of ice. Delivery drivers couldn't reach my house. My mailbox was blocked. Even walking across the sidewalk became risky. Neighbors walking their dogs had to step around the frozen obstacle Karen had created. Several people stopped to ask what happened, and every time I explained the situation, they shook their heads in disbelief. Karen, however, continued acting as though she had done absolutely nothing wrong. She even sat on her porch watching people